Welcome back to Leeds Lately. Before we get into this one, make sure you hit that big red button down below because it will really help me out. But today's video is, of course, a reaction to Watford 2, Leeds United 2, as you can see down below me. And I've just finished my live watch along and you're going to get my instant reaction to it. So, honestly, I think before we went into the game, you'd say you need to be getting 3 points, especially because earlier today Leicester lost 1-0 to Bristol City and Ipswich won against Blackburn Rovers, and of course Southampton, who still are in this because they've got games in hand, drew with Middlesbrough. So this was an ideal opportunity to try and get a bit more daylight between those teams. As it happens, we've got a point and we are now 1 point clear of Leicester, and still behind Ipswich, who are in first, but we're still in an automatic promotion spot. I think, honestly, if that game had ended at half time, there would have been a meltdown in the sort of Leeds community because we were awful in that first half. We were really, really bad. But I think even at the end of the game, when we played well in the second half and got it back to a draw, you have to say that you've got to look at the context of this year, as in this calendar year, so 2024. This is only the second game we've drawn. We still haven't lost. It's only the second game we've drawn and we've won all the rest of them. You're going to have a lull in quality and in form at some point. But if you can still scrape points on the board from those moments, Leicester haven't been managing to do that. When they've played badly, when they've struggled in games, they still lose. We've managed to drag ourselves back and get a point in this game. Having said that, I think there were some things that could have been done better in this game. I think Farke made a mistake from the start in not having Ampadu and Rodon as the back two, the two centre backs, because what essentially happened is because Gruev's injured, we moved everything round to try and accommodate the midfield and tried to put Ampadu in the midfield because obviously he's one of our best midfielders. So you try and put him in there, but then that means you have to play Cooper at centre back. And let's talk about Cooper for a second because that leads me on to it. I just think it's done for him. I really do. I think every time the ball comes near him, you worry. I think for the second goal, he just was not good enough, nowhere near tight enough on what's he called, Emmanuel Dennis. He just let him go past him and cut inside, and you should never be allowing that to happen. Obviously, he's not allowing that to happen, but you know what I mean. Like he's really struggled to get anywhere near Emmanuel Dennis, and I think he's just off the pace of this team anymore. So, what I said whilst we were watching this, I actually thought that Firpo was injured. I forgot that he was one of the players who actually was fit and he was on the bench. But my suggestion was from the start we should have had Ampadu and Rodon as the two centre-backs. Archie Gray should have been in midfield and we should have played Shackleton at right-back and Byram at left-back. As it happens, later on in the game, we looked at the bench and stuff with the live stream. We're like, we have Firpo, so there's your option. You put Byram at right-back, you put Firpo at left-back, and you take Cooper off and put Ampadu back in there, and Gray goes in the midfield. That's how I think we should have started. And I think if we did start that way, I think if that had been our starting 11, we wouldn't have been in the situation we were at halftime. We wouldn't have been playing as badly as we were. I genuinely believe that because Ampadu, who's not really used to going back in and playing in midfield, yes, he did it in the international break, but I think he struggled a little bit in that first half. He gave a lot of balls away. He was really quite poor in that first half. Put him in centre-back in the second half and he was back to himself again. He was fine. He was good. So I think that was a mistake on Farke's part. I think starting with that starting 11 was an issue and was a mistake, and that's what caused us issues. Let's not take anything away from Watford. Obviously, Tom Cleverley's come in as their new interim manager, and he's won their away game that they had, and this was his first home game. They came and took the game to Leeds. You've got to say that they were in this game as well. They came and took the game to Leeds. They made it difficult for us. They pressed us. They saw that we had Cooper at the back. They pressed us high, and they scored a couple of good goals. We should have defended better. Honestly, on our first goal, yes, there's a catalogue of errors that end up with a goal. As always, like you can trace it back a few steps. But where we gave the ball away was with Sam Byram diving. He realised that he'd overrun the ball and then he sort of like flopped on the floor as if to say, hopefully I'll win a free kick. And when he didn't win a free kick, they just went up the end of the pitch and scored. So that was really disappointing from Byram because you don't see him do things like that much. But Somerville's goal, there was 2 offsides in it. but who cares? It's the Championship. There's no VAR. Fantastic finish, though. Byron was offside in the build-up. Then when Byron went back and swapped with Somerville was then offside when he got played the ball, where he eventually ran round the player and just bent it in the top corner from the edge of the box. Unreal goal. And then we go and concede another before half-time. And this is where we said in our live stream, Farke needs to really put a rocket up them and have a proper go at them, or just say something that kicks them into gear. And it seemed like he did, because even with Cooper on the pitch, we still were dominating in the early stages of that second half. But I do think that was partially down to Watford sitting deeper, saying, okay, we've got the lead now, come and break us down. And they're not particularly a side who are great at saying come and break us down, as you can see by the final scoreline, because we were able to claw back that deficit. But having said that, when we changed things, and it got a lot better when we put Ampadu in the defence and sorted all those things around. So, and again, Farke changed it at the end to put Joel Piroe on, to put Mateo Joseph on, to put Anthony on. By the end, we were again playing with like 3 defenders, and Dan James is like a makeshift right back. I honestly think it's a game where it's best to just forget about it. We've managed to get a point out of it, which is much better than nothing. It's still another point on the board. It puts us a point clear of it, Leicester. I think it's just one of those where you've got to forget about it. You've had a lull in form, but you've still managed to come through it. And hopefully on Monday night against Hull, which of course I'll be live for, so come and join me for that. We've got to go out there and really put on a performance, for them. Mateo Joseph obviously got the equaliser. He came on, and it must have been 10, 15 seconds after the whistle had gone to continue play after he'd come on the pitch. Jamal Lewis tried to clear it, but he just cleared it straight into Mateo Joseph's knee, and it hit him and went in. They all count. It was the equaliser. We were all absolutely buzzing in the chat. And we come away with a point in a game which, at half time, you'd have gone, oh my God, we're playing so terribly. We are awful today. To get a point out of the game, I think, is not the worst result in the world at the end of the day. Yes, they're only a few points clear of the relegation spots. Yes, you need to be winning games like this to get promoted. But realistically, do you win every single game that you should in a championship season? No, of course not. I mean, look at Leicester. They were miles ahead. They were 17 points ahead of us at the start of the year. We're the anomaly at the moment, being the ones that are beating everyone and only drawing a couple of games. We're still on that run. We're still on that sort of anomalous run. Other teams like Leicester, they're still winning, and they're still keeping up the pace that not necessarily that they were, but like a normal title challenging pace, dropping points here and there. We're the ones that are the odd one out at the moment, so we've got to take the context with this situation. Don't be too upset by this. We've got players coming back within a week or 2 weeks in terms of Connor Roberts and Gruev and those sorts of players that we really missed today, I think. But if we go into the Hull City game and we play with the back 4 of Firpo, Ampadu, Rodon, Byram, with Gray, Kamara in midfield, with Somerville, Jorginho, Dan James and Bamford up front, or Mateo Joseph up front, or Joel Piroe up front, we've got options. We've got enough to have a good starting 11, and I really think that Farke should have learnt his lesson about playing Liam Cooper in this game. I think what he needs to do is realise that it has to be Ampadu and Rodon. They're on that unbelievable streak of not conceding goals. When they went back to a back 2 and a defensive partnership again, those 2 players, they didn't concede. So again, it continues this partnership, and I think that's what we have to use. We have to use that. But yeah, fantastic comeback and fantastic moment to get that goal at the end. But we take a point and we move on to the next one. Thanks for watching Leeds Lately. Let me know what you think of the game down in the comments below, and I'll see you in the next one.